Program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.
Carlos Nelson with What's Up Kansas City, and today we have two of our councilwomen that represent the zip codes that most of the Black community lives in. Who do we have here?
Good morning. I am Ryana Parks-Shaw, Councilwoman for Kansas City's 5th District.
All right.
And good morning. My name is Melissa Robinson, and I am the in-district council member for the 3rd District of Kansas City.
All right. The reason I asked you councilwomen to come on is with the C-19 has changed the dynamics of how we do business at the city, how corporate community do business, and the communications in general, and how important it is now for you to ever more be attached to the internet. We here at Cascade Media Group, we're not just concerned about the whole city. Our main priority is the Black community, because there's they have redlining in real estate. There's a red line that goes across our community from real estate to health to insurance to mortgages to everything. And that red line now, I feel, is somewhat to do with color, but the world is recognizing it's a red line on social and economic status, not just here in Kansas City, be around the world, and all of this upheaval. Now, why we want to talk to our two councilwomen is to see what's your agenda for 220, 221 as it relates to the Black community. And Ms. Shaw, I'd like for you to lead that discussion off.
Well, thank you very much, Carlos. You know, in my roles, especially being a healthcare professional and executive for 25 years, ensuring that we have a process that includes, that works on the racial disparities that we have in our life expectancy issue that we have in Kansas City, meaning that you can live in certain zip codes and live up to 20 years less than someone who lives in a zip code that's maybe a mile away. That is a priority for me. And so I'm excited that the mayor just recently appointed me as council co-chair for the Health Commission. And we have already had 2 meetings. And so the priority there for that commission is to reduce the disparities and improve the overall life expectancy for those people in those zip codes. And that includes working on things like our violent crimes. And so I'm excited to say that the Health Commission has recently voted unanimously to support a comprehensive strategy to looking at violence prevention, and it's called Kansas City Blueprint for Violence Prevention. And so those are, in this next year, my priority will be to focus on that, as well as you've already mentioned C-19, COVID-19. We are unfortunately seeing significant disparities within our community and within our city. And so my priority will continue to be to focus on those, doing things like increasing testing and contact tracing and ensuring that we have the resources where they need to be in our city.
All right. Melissa, could you talk a little bit about what your platform is for? Because we're going to get back with you, Ryana, because I know your platform is more than just the health department and health issues. But Councilwoman, would you give our audience what your platform is for 220 going into 221?
Yes, sir. So we are coming up on the first year of our service to the citizens of Kansas City who called us to do this work. And both Raina and I can say, are very humbled to serve in this role. We take our role seriously. We take our this is an opportunity to be a voice for those who brought us along the way. And so in looking at that, I immediately got together with the constituents and stakeholders in the 3rd District when I was elected, and we came up with a scorecard, an accountability of what are the things that people want us to do. We ended the campaign season, and for a year, we've been in this governing season. And even though we're in COVID-19, we cannot lose sight of those aspirations that we had and those expectations that people had before COVID-19. So I want to talk to you today about my platform as relates to representing the voice of what's on our scorecard, and then also what we're doing to address COVID-19, and then the civil unrest that's going on in the community, and what I'm doing to address that in terms of a platform and being accountable to the constituents of the 3rd District. So let's talk about the scorecard really quickly. There were 4 big buckets that the residents of the 3rd District said were critical to them. One is economic development. The other is housing. The third item has to do with blight, the issues that we're dealing with all of the debris and trash and illegal dumping in our community. And the other one obviously is violence. And so with those areas, we are working in the economic development space. We know that we have the Central City Sales Tax, and people talk about reparations all the time. And I call the Central City Sales Tax our form of reparations. It produces, before COVID-19, it's projected to produce $10 million. So now we're in COVID-19, we're looking at $7 to $10 million that are produced for those zip codes that Councilwoman Parks-Shaw already talked about as it relates to the economic justice that needs to happen in our community. That's every year for 10 years. And so how are we making sure that there are small developers, we're bringing in new developers to develop our own community? And so we're working to identify individuals and provide them with the resources necessary to get in the game. And then we know in the 3rd District, we had a fragile economy pre-COVID, right? And so now we're looking at how it's even becoming more traumatic for the economy to exist in the 3rd District. So we have to think about, how do we not only close business, but in the new state of affairs, how do we grow business? How do we become innovative? So on Monday, we will be talking to the EDC as a part of our 3rd District monthly meeting, and we're going to be talking about thriving through COVID. So economic development is critical. Also, with the issue of trash and blight, I introduced something this week that requires our solid waste department to begin to look at how do you shift resources in the 3rd District to ensure that our children are not walking next to illegal dump sites when they're going to school. We know in the 3rd District, we have an overdependency on public transportation, and you have to walk 12 blocks, 1 mile before you can get on a bus to go to school. So we're going to be working on cleaning up the blight within a 12-block radius of every school that's in those zip codes that have the life expectancy issues that we're trying to remediate. We also are doing a lot of cleanups and trying to direct resources from the water department to ensure that we're addressing litter in the community. And then also, when you think about housing, it's so critical that we utilize the Central City Sales Tax dollars. In the 3rd District, we have the largest amount of flight as it relates to abandoned houses and people leaving the 3rd District, right? And so we have to create tools and it looks like you're trying to get in, so I'm going to say this one sentence and pause, but we have to create tools to accelerate the density in the 3rd District, not only with new construction, but also filling in constructions infill and rehabilitating the housing stock that is attainable and that we don't gentrify the community. So one last thing that I introduced that we're working on now is that with the Central City sales tax, I think it is immoral and unjust to give developers dollars to do housing development in our community and then not require them to ensure that those houses are attainable for people. Once we give you the millions of dollars, make sure that contractually you're obligated to ensure that people can rent there on their income and that they can own those homes and it's not gentrified.
All right.
So I have a couple other things to say, but
no. You had your say already.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
But one of the things that you ended with, that was my next question. You talked about the cleanups and all of that type stuff. And my opinion, that really shouldn't even be on the agenda because we pay taxes. That stuff should be an outrage with whoever's the head of the department, and they don't need no extra anything besides
Let me explain. I rushed it through. So sometimes when we rush, we don't talk about the details. That's not where we're asking volunteers to come clean up. That is reallocating the way, and this came from our solid waste director, and figuring out ways that we can ensure that people have access to clam trucks and people have more
But I understand that from a business standpoint. I really don't want to hear that. There's a problem. You the head of the department, get with me next week to tell me how that problem is going to be solved.
Well, that's with the
and that's all I'm saying. That's all I need to know because those are not problems that they have in these other districts.
Well, do you want to have an argument or do you want to have a conversation?
No, hold it. I'm saying how I would be dealing with it. I'm not saying you're on the ground. You're hands on. I'm not. And
well,
because I have most of my viewers know I'm highly flammable, but the bottom line is what I'm saying to you is that the last thing you talked about was economics. That's what I want to go to with economics. And I think everything that's going wrong in our community, that red line, it all stems from economics, and people don't want to look at the systemic problems that our youth are facing through education, through across the board. And my point being that we have these corporations that do business in our city, and they are not kicking in, and that is the major problem. All this other stuff is side talk. Mr. Nelson, that's how I see it. I'm not the brightest person on the planet, but earlier in the year, when they let this company come from over in Kansas with $30 million or so, and the city's playing all kinds of games because they supposed to be against it, but then they got EDC, Drew Solomon there, representing the law firm or whatever, and they were over in Kansas City and moved over to Kansas for a better deal, and now and they're fleecing us, the taxpayers. And
right, and we can talk about that.
All I'm saying is that's where my conversation is. What are you doing to tell Highland Dairy, hey, you're supplying, and I'm not saying whether they supply to schools or not, but I know the dairy companies, they're supplying our high schools. What are you doing in our community? The Grangers and these different businesses that are in the community, and they feel free that they can come and suck the lifeblood out of our community and really have no price to pay except for, hey, you if we leave, you don't have anything. And so what I'm looking at is what is our 2021 going to be looking like, from putting some pressure on the haves, not the have-nots, because I'm not saying cleaning up the community is not, but the major thing in our community is connectivity and economics.
Yes, and you asked me about the platform, but let's transition into economic development and incentive reform. So I was speaking from a standpoint of what the voters, the people who cast their ballot for me and spent long hours to tell me what they wanted me to do, to share with you that platform. Now, as it relates to the economic incentives that both Councilwoman Parks-Shaw and I are working on together, along with our council colleagues, we have introduced a sweeping, drastic incentive reform package to our council colleagues. We're having a hearing on this on Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. People should go to our city clerk website, the Kansas City, Missouri, City of Kansas City, city clerk's website. You can Google all that and it'll come right up. And look for our neighborhood planning and development meeting notification so that they can join by Zoom. They can testify by Zoom. Again, the meeting will be at 1:30 on Wednesday. And let me talk to you about what is in the package, what's in the ordinance. The ordinance essentially for all of our statutory agencies, and our statutory agencies are those that provide economic incentives and coordinate economic incentives in our city. So our tax increment financing, our planned industrial expansion, and I don't want to get all of the acronyms, PIEA, our
my
LCRA, our
don't know
land
nothing
clearing.
about that. So you take
So all of our
care of us?
statutory.
That's all I'm asking you. Are you taking
Okay,
care
so but
of
let
us?
me break this down, because although that they may not understand it, hopefully when they leave this conversation, they'll have a little bit more knowledge about how this all works. And so that takes time and patience for us to get that information.
That's what, hold it. Now, let me interrupt you. That's
yes,
where
sir.
now you would say, this is where my plan is. Go to my website or go to my aid, and they will give you the plan so that we can keep this moving.
You can go to my website, melissarobinson.org, and something will be posted here around this on today. And all you have to do is click on the 3rd District News and it'll be posted there. So essentially what this ordinance does to expedite all of the background that our host today feels is a little unnecessary, which is fine. I'm his guest, so I will follow those
Don't
directions.
start that, Melissa.
And
my guest,
so,
please.
if you want
You're
to
the councilwoman.
just
Just like
Raina,
she's
I can do either one.
I'm a servant of my community. But
so am I.
as I've said to everybody that comes on my program, if you can't speak truth to power, then you will not be coming back on this show. Because I don't have a whole lot, but I do have my reputation intact about not sucking up and telling like it is.
Are you making a judgment about?
No,
okay,
I'm not making a judgment on anybody. It's just like when I see good things, I'll be like, I have to remind my audience. It's like I was giving the mayor good kudos because when he comes on our show, I can't say about them news things and what have you, he be like down home. And when he get ready to leave, he be like, I gotta bounce. Now, you know he don't leave regular news conferences, I gotta bounce. But it's keeping it real. And I'd be so surprised what's coming out of his mouth as it relates to just the concern for our community that I commented on all the time. I'm like, don't he realize that these people looking at this and they're gonna have a judgment? But it seemed like he doesn't really care. He's trying to do what's right. And so when I have really given him kudos, I let my audience know I don't suck up to the mayor and really don't care, but you give people they do when they doing what they supposed to do. Right. And that's the type of shows that I plan to run now from a political standpoint in Kansas City. And it's not about, I just want to know, what are you doing to help Black businesses bring their businesses up another notch? They had all that daggone construction out there at KC at them stadiums. That should have made at least 10 Black millionaires, and it didn't. And we were over the project. And so where I'm at now, I'm making sure that all the council people know, because now people are seeing that this digital is where we're going in the future.
Yes, sir.
And so if you can't speak for yourself on different items, then the people that watch my shows, they know where we coming from, and they know bull when they hear it.
Okay, so the other thing is regarding the ordinance that I introduced regarding the TIF incentive reform. What it does is it prohibits any tax incentives that are not in economically distressed census tracts. That means in our community, if you want to invest, you need to invest in where our greatest need is, and you will not take money away from our school system, not one dime. You will not take any money away from our mental health fund, not one dime. You will not take away any money from our metropolitan community colleges or our library systems or any of the other taxing jurisdictions. And the reason why this is important, and we introduced it from a standpoint of looking at south of the river,
But
because
has it
north
passed?
of the, I introduced it. We have a hearing on Wednesday, and so we're encouraging people who are in alignment with this idea to come and share with your council people how you want this to happen. So we will be working hard. Both Councilwoman Parks-Shaw and I will be working hard to make sure that this passed. And to your point about the other incentives that came through the city council, people should go to the TIF Watch, the website, because it has the record of every council person and how they voted on those measures. And so when you talk about, you know, our dialect and how we're down and how we're this and how we're that, what matters is how we vote. So look at how we vote.
Well,
and
hold it. That's the whole
make a judgment.
purpose of having every council person on.
Yes, sir. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm just adding to the conversation.
This program is brought to you by Dielectric LLC, Energy in Motion.
At one time, I used to tell the mayor, I see your lips moving, but I'm looking at your actions. And that's what you're talking about.
Right.
How did
So
they
just
vote?
go to that website and there's a scorecard. I'll send it to you. It tells you, and you will see under my name, I voted no on all of them.
Please send me the scorecard, because
I'll send it to you.
we're going to wind up having a show once I take a look at that on that. Hey, Ms. Shaw,
Okay.
Councilwoman Shaw.
Yes.
All right.
Let me get a drink of water.
So if I can just, interject a little bit here about the ordinance that Councilwoman Robinson and I co-sponsored. So this ordinance aims to create parity between the school districts throughout Kansas City, Missouri, as it relates to the tax abatements and the redirection of millions of dollars from our schools. And some of the data that we've conducted, we have identified that in this past year, $46 million was abated from school districts in Kansas City proper. And in looking at that, in 2019 alone, 28 million of those tax abatements were redirected from Kansas City public schools. Looking at the second school district.
Break that down. Hold on. Break that down. Redirected to where?
Well, incentives for those companies that you are referring to.
All right. See, remember what I said in the beginning. I might understand what you're talking about, but the average person doesn't understand that. And so we basically can't give a baby solid food. You got to give them pablum. And when you're talking money was as simple, money was taken away from our schools to do a project that our bill says shouldn't even be on the table because it's not an underprivileged area. Or am I correct?
That's correct. That's what this new ordinance will do. And Councilwoman Robinson and I have spent the last week really working with our council colleagues, trying to meet to ensure that this gets passed. But I want to reiterate again that we want your viewers to call in, to write letters, to email council people in support of this. And I don't think we've said the ordinance number yet. It's 200497. So that we can
Say it again.
200497. It's ordinance number 200497. And I also will give my office number if anybody has any questions. That you can call my office at 816-513-6521, and my aide Angela can assist you in getting the information that you need. Because it's important that we have the community really testify or show their support for this ordinance so that we can see this pass. For far too long, we have had these incentives that have been established on the backs of our kids. And I know that these incentives are a tool, and that there has to be a balance of creating a economic development, but we don't have to do it on the backs of our kids. And so I'm proud to be able to co-sponsor this with Councilwoman Robinson, to be able to push our city into looking at the way that we establish in economic development differently.
All right, this is what I want to know. You can continue talking, Councilwoman. What kind of response are you getting from the other council people that for that ordinance, and in general, do you feel that they understand that our house is on fire and you need their support?
Yes. So once the ordinance was released or introduced about 2 weeks ago, we immediately started receiving letters of support, even from many of the school districts as well. And so the meetings that we have had in this past couple of weeks have been very, very, very.
No, I'm saying your other council people.
Very promising. I have met with just about all of the council colleagues, and we all are in agreement that there needs to be incentive reform. Now, exactly how we go about that, we're still working through that. And so Councilwoman Robinson, like I said, both of us have been in back-to-back meetings in this past week, trying all day, literally for 10 hours.
Councilwoman Robinson, what kind of response have you gotten from, I'm being specific in this, from your colleagues?
Yes, sir. We have gotten a warm response. Now, also understand that we're striking while the iron is hot as it relates to the civil unrest. And so I introduced a set of probably 11 or 12 righteous policy agendas for Black people in Kansas City, for my district. And so this is just one of the measures that I introduced. And so I've been meeting with all of my colleagues to say that if Black Lives Matter, that means we have a moral, ethical, and legal responsibility to change our policies to demonstrate that Black Lives Matter economically, specifically with economics and racial justice. And
all right, this is what I want to cut through the chase
so yes,
on this.
There's a warm response from
all right,
my colleagues around that.
We cutting through the chase, honey.
Yes,
this is what I would ask you and Councilwoman Shaw. With asking them for their support, I think that it would behoove us if you're able to, when they need support on certain issues that they need our community support, that they know that you can deliver. And that's the purpose of, again, having this conversation, getting us all tuned in, so that there might be some things that they're trying to do that we automatically would be against because we don't understand the backlog or whatever. And we're not politicians, and you know, you got to give some to get some, but you're on top of our interests and would say that we're for this project in the first district or whatever district it is, because you know that you built a relationship that these other council people have to respect, because you're connected to the community, and your vote counts just like our community vote. How do you see that, Ms. Shaw?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that is a part of politics that just being that I'm a freshman at this, it's taking some adjustment to get used to. But I will say that in the one-on-one meetings that I've had with all the council colleagues in this past week, that hasn't come up. It hasn't been, well, I'll support this if you support that. Ultimately, in a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if anybody watched us at our business session, just about every council person expressed a need for tax incentive reform. And so, as she said, we're striking while the iron is hot, in that with all of the protests, all of the additional accountability pressure and transparency pressure, it is allowing everybody to look and think differently. And so ultimately, I've even had some of them even asked to offer to co-sponsor this with us. We've been invited in to work on some additional process changes from our colleagues in the Northland. And so I'm very optimistic about where we will end up with this. As I said, we will have the hearing next week, and ultimately you can get a lot of promises. You'll find out where people are when you look at how they vote. Now, when that final vote comes, it may be a month or two away from that, but right now, all indications are going very well.
I wish whatever that you make sure that Angela lets me know, because I don't really research this stuff like that. One thing I do know, they won't be walking through that TIF as quickly as they have in the past with old girl over it. That was the last councilwoman.
Alicia Kennedy is chair.
Yeah.
I actually am vice chair of the TIF commission myself.
Oh, right.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Yes.
I was like, well, Mayor through her position, and I think she's good for that position, because I don't think that I don't think she'll sell out per se. No other terminology I can use.
I think we have our council colleagues that are all on TIF commission, or Lee Barnes also serves on the TIF commission, as well as Andrea Boo. And then of course, Alicia Kennedy is serving as the chair. So yeah.
And you the vice chair?
Yes, I'm the vice chair.
All right, so y'all getting ready to it's a new sheriff in town and all of that. See, because I have a lot of conversations with Crosby Kemper over the years, and he comes on the show constantly, and he's got his new position, but he hated how they took that money from the library and the schools. Mm-hmm. And these commissions, our viewers, you need to really know who's on these commissions and what's going on, because that's why you're paying all these taxes and you're not getting the representation, and because we sleep at the wheel. And again, that's the purpose of reaching out to our constituents and saying, hey, this is a platform, you need to be coming on more often, telling the community per se what you're doing, and then invite more people to listen. Melissa, what's going on with the Black Healthcare Coalition, and the same thing, Raina? See, I'm getting ready to have a conversation, and y'all might have one or two young people that would like to participate. Can you believe anything the government says, or your leadership say, or corporations? Because the old man, I see that the world is going to hell in a handbasket, and you can't believe anything. When you look in the mirror, you better be saying, is that you? Because the spin is there. And the only way we can deal with some of this is have these conversations. They're difficult conversations to have, yes, but they're necessary. And I want to bring more young people into what they're seeing, how life is really, it's on a fast track for a young person. And just think about the young people that you're really serving that have to go to school just to get a meal, and that whole situation, because all of us came one way or another through that. We know what it is. We have family members, but what are we doing to add that drop in the bucket that's going to change that? And that's where I'm looking at, asking our viewership and our people, look at your moral compass and look deep inside yourself. Is it time for me to give up some perks, or is it time for me to readjust and recalibrate? And I think y'all use my favorite term, strike while iron is hot. The iron is red hot right now. And with y'all being women and being Black women, you understand. You see, I forgot what they call them, Ocasio and them up there in DC, the crew or something.
The squad.
Yeah, the squad. I'm like, yeah. I'm with them. Let's kick the door in. And so I see, that's what I'm saying to you two as Black women. Yeah. Kick the damn door in. Yes, the perks and things of being, but make these people accountable that are in our community, that have run roughshod over our community for a long time economically. And y'all have the power to change that. It's not that you can, as Councilwoman Shaw said, that she's a freshman and she's just learning. You know a little more about this than her, Melissa, because I consider you a pro.
No.
Yeah, I'm saying, hey, Ryana, is she a pro?
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you what, I'm taking notes, right?
No.
Yeah, I'm saying, and I'm saying, and I think that with I'm not sucking up to you, Melissa, because I'm mad at you. But
I know you are.
Yeah,
I know you are. I can feel it I feel it all coming through. But you know, we love
but
each
that's
other.
all right. I'm saying, because see, I understand. But what I think that you, your trajectory can be on a national scene. That's all I'm saying. I think you have the intellect, you have the history that you can represent our community on a national level, just like these mayors out of Atlanta and Frisco and what have you, because you've been around. It's not like you had no damn gold spoon in your mouth, and you politically, you really savvy.
Well, I'm humble. I'm humbled to hear those words. And we know that we can only do the job that we've been called to do at this moment, and that's what this is about. But Ryana Parks-Shaw and I, we are trying to squad up. Like, I am so honored and humbled to be able to serve with someone who has so much grace, poise, also intellect, and passion for the community. And when you look at this council at large, you know, we are one of the most diverse councils, I believe, in the history of the city. Every council district has a woman to represent them. And we have a wide variety of not only political values, but also age, race. And so now we do have to, you know, think about how are we allowing other people of color to enter the space, because Kansas City has not yet to have a Latino or indigenous person to be on the council. So we still have work to do. But what I'm saying is that
they had Bobby Hernandez.
Oh yes, that's right. Okay, give me together.
I'm older than
that's
you.
not enough. That's still not enough. So right. I will say, but
him correct. And Charles Hasley, Boy, did they have a chokehold on that council.
Yeah. So we still have a lot of work to do, and I think we're still in the phase of just learning how to work together as a team. But I think the foundation is there to really have a powerhouse council and mayor, and so we're really excited to serve. And I love iron sharpens iron, and you are a really sharp knife. So I love to come on your show. I love to talk to you always, because I know that I'm going to be better, and I know that you're going to push me to be accountable and to be the person that I need to be. So I really appreciate you. And yes, we do need to be together more, and I need to come on the show more.
All right, I'm going to close out with one thing, because I want y'all to come on at least every 2 weeks or something to talk about. When I was saying about having these students come on to talk about, can you believe this, or can you believe the, because I don't, on this C-19, my personal feeling is that we should be on the lockdown stage right now. We should have never, when I'm talking to my audience, I'm saying to them, because when y'all come on the show, I can somewhat see, especially with Zoom, your expressions and what have you. And that's when I gave the mayor, start giving him his props. The more he came on, the more I got to see him. It's like our community don't know that when the orders come from DC or the federal government, that this is how the city's going to operate. That you could be the mayor and don't agree with it, but you got to go along. That's what I say you the politician, Melissa, because in watching you talk to me about a few things at different times that, hey, I got to do this. This is what I have to do so I can be here to represent or what have you. And a lot of times we don't understand situations why people do what they do.
Yeah, politics is the constrained use of social power. The
All right.
constrained
Say that
use
again.
of the constrained use of social power.
Because
So
the mayor, I know that he would, if it was his druthers, he would have shut the city down, right? Not that he said that to me in private or in public, but I could just see, but you've got to do certain things, certain ways. And I think that has to be discussed. Can you believe what the health department say? Can you believe what the corporate community say? Can you believe what your government says? Because it always turns out different, and it's litigation in the court after everybody's dead.
well, and then people are like, okay, we have to. It's an election coming up. So is this also a ploy to get people more afraid to participate in the civic process, because everything is open, so there's going to be a greater exposure. We don't have the testing and contact tracing that we need in order to open safely. So it is really a chaotic time for Kansas City and the entire nation. So we have to come in and do it. We need to do a COVID edition, because Councilwoman Parks-Shaw is leading the city's efforts.
When do you want to do that? You tell me. It's my network. I like saying that.
Well, I'm gonna let Councilwoman Parks-Shaw to set the date, and then because I'm available anytime to come on, and I love this Saturday morning time. It's pretty cool because you're not crouched by other activities on your calendar. So I'm available to do that.
Hey, Councilwoman, what's up? Our motto is Cascade Media Group is the wave of the future. That wave is the internet, and the future's now, right now. New York second.
All right, let's plan it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
And what we can also do, when you want to have a discussion and bring a guest on or two guests on, then you would have the call me, we want to have this on, blah, 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 and this is the time, and these are the guests, and go with it. I'm saying, and that, to me, that is, content is king. And having content out there, I think can't do anything but help you, providing that, again, you know what the third rail is, and don't touch that. You good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have so much to talk to you about. We have to talk about the airport. We have to talk about a lot of things that are happening. The city manager search. There's a lot that we
Shit,
need
hold
to.
it. The guy's not there no more?
Yeah, Troy Schulte left some
Yeah,
time ago,
no.
so we
Who's
have an
there
interim.
now?
We have an interim,
Right.
Ernest Rouse, but we're looking for a permanent city manager.
Oh, so he's not going to be all right, because
Yep,
we
he's
was
not.
trying to get a interview with him. The first interview we did with the mayor about 4 months ago, and he was reluctant. So that's how much do you and I'm gonna call y'all the crew. Is Lee Barnes part of the crew?
Yeah, he's part of
Yeah.
the crew.
All right, hold it.
Yeah,
Well, let me say this. I know
Dean
you have
Lee.
some
I call him Dean
renegades.
Lee.
I know that much. I don't
We
know
all
what.
part of the crew. We are all called to do this work. So we just got
All
to
right.
figure out where we fit in to get in and work together.
All right. Hey, I don't know, because I'm not part of the crew, but
Yes, you are. You're part of the crew.
I want to be part of the crew. I think it's the look behind me. Billie Holiday, the president, Miles Davis.
One day you're gonna have Councilwoman Parks-Shaw behind you.
Hold it.
Yes.
I got you all in front of me.
All right.
We
You
got
know,
the
and
back and the front. Yes.
I think having a different, as I tell people, my style is unconventional. I think that our community needs to know, hey, these are people. This is them with their hair let down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Mhm.
know, and being real to themselves and to our community. So
Yeah. This
I'm
is the
hoping.
era of authenticity. This is the
Hey,
era of authenticity.
I'm hoping that y'all really see the light on shutting the city down, and because it's affecting our community way more than one would think. And people, what I'm saying, people walking around like nothing's wrong in our community.
Yeah, and from a legislative standpoint, 10 seconds, we are introducing a measure this week. We have spent I'm sorry, I'm trying to add up the math. We've spent, I think, about $2 million on COVID testing and tracing. We need to be at the $4 million mark. So to the extent that we can send emails are so powerful. Phone calls are so powerful to your local electeds to tell them what you want. You don't have to have
Give
the
them your number again, and Shaw, give them your number again.
Yes, 816-513-6513, 513-6513. And when you call us, ask for us to email you the list of all the council members, because we're pretty much are going to vote those ways. But it's important for the people who don't share your values that we're trying to represent your voice, for them to hear from you directly what your values are. So you have to target the people who are on your side, but hold everyone accountable, because you don't want to sleep and say, oh, I thought that they were with me. So it's important for everybody to know what your voice is. But for the contact tracing and the testing, we are so far behind. It is embarrassing.
And I think the other thing that I just want to point out too is, nothing happens without 7 votes. And so while we may be on the team, we need 7 votes to make something happen.
Yeah.
But I want to encourage people to call my office, 816-513-6521. That's 513-6521. And the other thing that I want to say too is that you need to contact your Jackson County legislature and those legislators, because there are dollars that are coming into Kansas City through the CARES Act. And we are waiting on our county legislators to vote on on appropriating those monies. So Kansas City, unfortunately, or fortunately or unfortunately, is covered in 4 different counties. And so some of those counties have moved forward and allocated dollars so that we can do proper testing and recovery as far as COVID is concerned, but there are other counties that are delaying that. And so I want to encourage people to also contact your county legislators in addition to your city council members as well.
We'll send an
And
invitation to them before the week. They'll get an invitation to come on the show by Monday.
can you also send the link out for the census? Because that's the reason why we're in this situation in which the funds had to flow through the county because our count was too low for the money to come to us. And so the census is extended through October, and Councilwoman Parks-Shaw has been the leader on the council as it relates to getting people to fill out the census. The 3rd district is still at the lowest in terms of our response. So they've now had to dispatch people to knock on our doors, and it takes like 5 minutes to fill out. So if we can get people to also fill out the census, and we can do a show. Can we do a show on that too? Can we do a show?
We can do what we can do, but Councilwoman Shaw, this is what I was saying to you off camera. Now, just think with the census stuff, if the community was already connected.
Right.
And and as I've said this, there's nothing more important in our community than connecting it. And anybody that says education or anything else, they wrong, because you can have your position nailed down, but if only a dozen people know your position and there's tens of hundreds of thousands that need to understand that, you got nothing. And I say this, I feel it is convenient for our leadership to keep it that way. And I won't point fingers, but as I said to you, Councilwoman Shaw, when you don't support efforts like ours, then there's a problem. All of us buy groceries. I have to look at myself. How do we let Leon's Supermarket go out of business? One of the oldest Black supermarkets in the country. And we all buy groceries. And so when we have things, we, for whatever reason, we don't use and protect our interests. And this is what I said earlier. The world is waking up. We have to really wake up and look at ourselves and do a check on our morals and what do we truly believe in.
You had asked about the Black Healthcare Coalition. Can I do one shameless plug? We have a COVID.
Hey, this is the Black program. You ain't got to be shameless about no plugs on here.
Thank you. We have a COVID edition of our community baby shower. It'll be a drive-through community baby shower at 3100 Broadway at Children's Mercy's Clinic on July the 25th. We'll be there from 9 to 11. And we have a lot of resources and information for expecting families during the COVID season. We're also working on Alzheimer's in our community very deeply. So please connect to the Black Healthcare Coalition at bhcckc.org, bhcckc.org to sign up for those things. Thank you.
Rena, what you got to say? You don't have nothing to plug shamelessly?
I do. Yeah, I was trying to. Of course, I didn't have it prepared, but we're doing a food drive and COVID testing and protective PPE, protective personal equipment distribution, July the 18th, and it's It's at the Old Zion Grove Church right there by down on Swope Parkway.
All right, I know.
We're doing that, and then also have one scheduled on August the 5th, and you can contact my office. I'm sorry, August the 7th, a food drive. You can contact my office for more information.
Give them your office number again.
Okay, it's 816-513-6521. You can also see if you follow my Facebook page, it's Ryana Parks-Shaw, Ryana for Casey, RYANA, the number 4, Casey. on Facebook, and you'll have all of our information there as well.
Hey, we're going to close, but I want to know this because there's been a lot of food drives, and I've seen the bishop, I've seen you at a handful of them, Melissa. How are those being received? And because I was saying about the connectivity, do you think enough people even that were in that position that needed that food knew
Yes.
about it? And when you have those type things, transportation is an issue for our community, especially in the lower economic and social part of it.
Yes,
Run down.
and I do have to shout out the 3rd District Councilman at Large, Brandon Ellington. He has done so many food drives. It seems like 3 and 4 a week. It's amazing. But they are received very well. I've been at many of them, and people are coming. We run out of food. We have to go and re-up. People do not understand, and I'm getting chills thinking about it. This COVID situation is real. When I am in my community, obviously I live in the 3rd District, and people are hurting. People need resources, and this is no joke. And when we talk about the underground economy regarding substance abuse and use, as well as the distribution of narcotics in the community, this COVID situation is putting people in such an economic depressive state that's the reason why we're having all of these increases of crime and violence. So if you can't afford to feed your family, what other options do you have? And would you put yourself in a situation to feed your babies that is uncompromising? I think many of us would. And so that's where it's important for us to do the right thing, understand people's hurt, connect them to the resources that they need, because nobody should be going without food, water, clothing, shelter. It's despicable. And so I appreciate everyone who's donating to harvesters, who's volunteering to deliver the food. It's not enough, and that's why I think we need to, have another show. I know that Councilwoman Parks-Shaw is leading a tremendous effort from a comprehensive standpoint of what the city is doing to respond. But this is not something that needs to end, that ended in May in terms of resources. This has to go through next year, in 2 years, in 3 years, in order for people to bounce back. And we have a responsibility to say, like, yeah, people stop shutting off your water and your gas and your electricity for a moment, but we need to renew those commitments to make
that's
sure
where that's where I'm saying with your other council people. And as I talked to one of the majority council people, and when I say that, I talk black and white, one of the white ones, and I was like, slavery and all of that stuff was not your fault, but it is your fault, and you are benefiting from the vestiges of that when you're not trying to, and you're in position to level the playing field. And that's where I'm saying, do your colleagues understand that our house is on fire, and if they are good human beings and they believe in what they claim the system stands for, that they need to be supporting your efforts on the corporations, putting teeth into things that make them invest in where they're doing business, in our infrastructure, in our health. Because as I told Terry Renard, you would be surprised at how many different things that get turned over to me in relations to studies that the city and Parks and Rec do and spend $500,000 and all this big money on these things. And as I told them, you could ask any person in the damn inner city, well, where's the highest insurance rates? Where's the highest death rates? And
right.
you all spent $500,000 on that.
Well, and I have 2 boys at home, so I tell them all the time, look, if you broke it, you're going to fix it. And so white people, my brothers and sisters, if you broke this, don't expect for us to fix it all, okay? Because you have to start to fix these things.
Right.
And I believe that we have a council that wants to do that, and we need to, there's some work to be done, okay?
But that conversation let me say this.
But
That's the purpose
we can't fix
of
it
this.
all.
That conversation has to be talked about, and it doesn't need to just be talked about in the back room.
Hello.
Let me jump in here real quick, 'cause I got to give some props to Councilwoman Robinson. Early on, when we first started, Councilwoman Robinson introduced the ordinance or resolution that called racism, that identified racism as a public health crisis, and it passed unanimously through our council. To me, that spoke volumes to where we are starting and our potential to where we can go as a council. And so, I just have to applaud you, Councilwoman Robinson, for continuing to push that and keeping that in the forefront of everybody's mind, that we look at everything, all of our decisions through a racial equity lens.
All right, this is what I want to say. When is the vote coming down on y'all's ordinance?
So we're having a public hearing. It won't be a vote. We'll have to let you know when that vote is. But the public hearing is on Wednesday at 1:30. You can join by Zoom, or you can come to City Hall.
Why don't y'all try to come
floor
on Thursday? Have Angela get in touch with me so that you can give a synopsis of what you think took place at that hearing.
Okay. Yeah, we might have to do it pretty early in the morning because that's a legislative day as well. But yes, absolutely. Let's make it happen.
I get my big butt up.
You eat your Wheaties. Eat your Wheaties, big brother.
No, I'm a oatmeal and cranberry man.
Oh, good.
But I think having these type just loosely conversations where it's nothing specific, but it's everything specific once it comes to light. And it was a pleasure having both of you young ladies on the show. And as I always end our shows, sports, worldwide, whatever, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Good night.
Program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.